It's a Monday, May 1st, 2017. I'm your host, Sarah Mantle. We have a great show in store for you today. First up, the Cape Wildlife Center remains open. That's thanks to some pretty dedicated volunteers. We're going to find out more during our interview with Executive Director Zach Mertz and Co-Chair Karen Ritchie. Then we'll find out what's happening at Cape Cod Community College with Communications Director Michael Gross on this episode of Barnstable Today. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at today's top headlines. A project to improve Osterville Bay Fields moves forward. Town Council unanimously approved spending $675,000 for the Osterville Recreation Building and Design Construction Project during last week's meeting. Town Council also voted to pass a moratorium on recreational marijuana shops and marijuana establishments until December of 2018. Changes to the Gateway Medical District in Hyannis were also approved. That measure will allow more business uses in the area surrounding the hospital and was proposed by the Barnstable Economic Development Commission. The Housing Committee says no to a developer's request to avoid including affordable housing units in a proposed Hyannis condo complex. Housing Committee member Aaron Kanzer says it's important to follow town ordinances that are already in place.
The biggest issue I have with here is we have other organizations that have come in here that have worked with the town to abide by what is law, and then we have this proposal where it's just a complete waiver of it. If there's an issue with the law, then perhaps it should be taken into account somewhere else where the law is created. But I think my opinion on this development and this proposal is that it's not appropriate. I'm not comfortable supporting something that sets perhaps a dangerous precedent for future developments in the town.
Developer Stuart Bornstein responded. Let's take a listen to that.
If you think having an affordable unit that's maybe $75, $80 a week less than what a market rate is, and I'm not sure about the numbers, the real thing is the people are making $300 less a week than they should to live. So the issue of affordable housing is an issue, but building them isn't the end result. The thing that you got to look at, we're going to have some high-paying jobs. There'll probably be 2, 3 full-time people there to get some decent money. We'll probably generate in excess of $200,000 in tax revenue that the town could use, maybe, to give some of these developers some of the land that they're sitting on, not getting any taxes. And my suggestion is the only way you're really going to get affordable housing, the town's sitting on thousands of acres, thousands. Everybody wants something, and they said, hey, the developer, you got to pay. Guess what? I've been sitting on 90 units for 5 years, 10 years. I can't afford to build them. Even the market rates make it tough. We're just sitting there, and I'll pay my $1,000, $1,200, $2,000 tax revenue when the town probably is losing a lot of money. I'm not the only guy thinking like this. You want the developer to fund it. You want 3 here, 2 here, and your need for affordable housing is growing and growing, and you're not even staying even with the need. You're going behind. The reason you're going behind, you got all these roadblocks for us to put stuff up that generates income, it generates jobs, so these people can go out and get jobs, can afford better housing.
Now, following that discussion, the Housing Committee ultimately voted to send a letter to the Planning Board urging them to enforce the affordable housing quotas that have been established and not to grant a waiver for the proposed condo complex in Hyannis. This year's Mercy Otis Warren Cape Cod Woman of the Year Award will be presented to Dolores Holden DeLuz of Hyannis. DeLuz is a founding member of the Zion Union Heritage Museum, a founding member and past officer of the Cape Cod NAACP, an early supporter of the Council of Churches, and an advocate for so many in her community. DeLuz will be presented the Cape Cod Woman of the Year Award during a ceremony June 5th at Tales of Cape Cod. Congratulations, Dolores. A plan to build a new playground at Barnstable West Barnstable Elementary School moves forward. Playground Committee member Jen Mullen presented plans for the playground to the Community Preservation Committee last week.
So this is just a quick, you have it in your packet, an aerial shot. There will be some things that are going to change. The 2 pergola seating areas, Mr. Kanyak has a bench company that he works with. They're very low maintenance. He would prefer to see that. So obviously, we're going to take those out and go with what works for facilities in terms of maintenance. But this is it. It's about a third of the playground will be handicapped accessible for wheelchairs and walkers, which is very exciting because that was not the case with the existing wooden playground. We will be carrying on the handicap ramp that goes down to the tennis courts, so that will wind down around into the back of the playground so that there's full access.
The Community Preservation Committee voted to approve using $375,000 of community preservation funds for that project. That will next go before Town Council for final approval. Up next, we're going to chat with Cape Wildlife Executive Director Zach Mertz and Friends of the Cape Wildlife Center co-chair Karen Ritchie. Thank you so much for joining us today. Very excited to talk about the Cape Wildlife Center. I know it's been a very transitional year for everyone at the Cape Wildlife Center. As we know, earlier last year, the Humane Society did decide they could not continue to support the center. This is where, really, Karen, you stepped in. Talk to me a little bit about your work with the Friends of the Cape Wildlife Center.
When the community heard that the Cape Wildlife Center was closing, it was really a shock situation to most people. A lot of people had contact with the Wildlife Center by bringing an injured animal in, knowing that it was going to be taken care of. And the community said, we're just not going to let this happen. So Elizabeth Brooke and myself and a number of other people from various towns up and down Cape Cod decided that we needed to have a call to arms. So back in November, we held a meeting at the community college, at which 200 people attended right out of the door. So we were very excited. People began to sign up about what can we do to make this happen. We weren't sure whether or not the facility was going to stand, what we were going to do. So at that point, we decided we would have to form the Friends of Cape Wildlife, become our own 501c3 organization to back the Cape Wildlife Center and whatever they needed, be that funding, staffing. And to date, we have about 150 members. We have website, Facebook, lots of social media. We're out there educating the community, and we are fundraising this year. Our commitment to the Cape Wildlife Center is to fundraise $100,000 to help with operational costs and to organize and manage all the volunteers till they get to a capacity where they can take that step over, and to do educational outreach.
Very, very exciting that this group has made such headway in such a short amount of time. We see so many times. This just seems like such a community effort, and to really see that turnout at Cape Cod Community College. Did you think you guys were going to get that much support?
We didn't know what to think. We were hoping we would get that much support. Certainly everybody that I talked to was backing us, but I'm in an animal welfare group, so generally that's where the support would come from. But we had support across the board from people that would come up, and we're so grateful that there was a place that they could bring an injured or an orphaned animal. What's important to realize is that Cape Wildlife Center not only does care for injured, abandoned, and orphaned animals, but we care for the community in a sense that to find a bunny in your yard that's bleeding and to have absolutely no place to bring that, or find a raccoon that's been hit by a car and animal control says, I have to euthanize this animal because I don't have any place that can treat it. That's a horrible situation to be in for anybody. Nobody wants to be there. It's very heartwarming to say, I have this, can you take care of it? And we can, or we can end its suffering, one or the other. So people were glad to have that aspect there.
And so heartwarming just to see that community response and see the community really see a need here. And of course, Cape Codders are always very involved.
Absolutely.
Cape Codders are always very involved. That's one thing I've learned since moving here. But you know, very, very exciting. Really, you guys had to fundraise and fundraise and fundraise. Yes. So you're still raising money because this is going to be a struggle for you guys. You're not getting any state or federal funding, so this is important.
Absolutely. So we are now a small community nonprofit, and as you said, we get no state or federal funding to care for the animals that we do. And I just want to say, yesterday we crossed our 200th patient line, which is extremely exciting for us, but it also proves our proof of concept and the need for us to be there.
And that's since March 1st.
And that is since March 1st.
We've only
200 animals since
weeks.
March 1st.
Yep.
Those are just animals that have been brought into us. We field phone calls, many phone calls every day. What do we think a yearly?
So this year we expect to field about 10,000 phone calls. And that is everything from, I see an injured deer in my backyard, to, hey, what's going on with the aquifer underneath my house right now? And what we've really tried to do is expand this beyond just the animal care. That is sort of our central mission, but into the environmental science, into the ecology, into the natural history. And that's truly what animal care is. It is the medical side of things, but you have to understand a little bit about the habitat and where these animals come from in order to accurately care for them.
Wow.
And so by fielding these phone calls and by inviting people in and by caring for the animals, we are really approaching this holistically and giving the public a broad education so that they can turn to their friends and families and constituents and say, listen, you know, I had this experience, here's what I learned, here's what we can do today, here's how we can protect the environment, here's how we can save animals in the future.
Wow. So really, you know, like you said, love that holistic approach and taking a look at things from that perspective. And what else does the Cape Wildlife Center do as it's working with the community?
Sure. So let me, can I give you the quick history?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. So the Humane Society of the United States operated our beautiful 4.6 acre facility in Comaquid for about, I think, 8 years. And unfortunately, because as you mentioned, there's no state or federal funding for this, they simply couldn't afford to operate the facility anymore. At which point, they decided they were going to close the doors, and unfortunately, there would be a big hole left in animal care down here on the Cape. And so Karen's group, as we talked about, the Friends of Cape Wildlife, were sort of the first responders to this, along with the Pegasus Foundation, who has generously become our fiscal agent or administrative agent through all of this. They saw the emergency situation and were willing to wrap us into their nonprofit charter for the year, which has been incredible. At which point the New England Wildlife Center, which is a similar organization down in Weymouth, Massachusetts, also saw the gap that was going to be left in animal care, and it would not only leave no place for these injured, sick, orphan animals to go, but there is a significant public health aspect to this too, meaning that the rabies submissions to distempers or any of the zoonotic diseases we see every day in wildlife, there was not a ton of resources to monitor them, and there was not a ton of people that could actually prepare these submissions to go in. So we also find recently that we're being leaned on by animal control, DNR, you know, a few other natural resources folks. We're part of the rabies task force. And so when all these organizations came together, all of the public need became very apparent. We were able to leverage just enough funding to rent this facility for $1 a year.
Wow.
And the property is beautiful, but I do want to stress that we are certainly not out of the woods yet. We have the facility, we have the talent, we have the community buy-in, but we really need the funding to activate this. And we look to the community we serve to help us, and we invite all of them to come by and see what we're up to.
If someone's watching right now and saying, you know, this is such a great organization, I've heard so many good things about the work they do, how can I give back? What are ways that individuals who are watching can help the center?
Sure.
Well, first of all, they can volunteer at the center. I manage the volunteers at Cape Wildlife Center. We just did an orientation last week. Got 40 new volunteers that are coming in that will be trained to be working with direct animal care. That's a small portion of the ways to volunteer. You can volunteer in fundraising, administrative help, events, maintaining our property, fixing cages, just about any talent you have we can use, because we run the facility, we run the animals.
Yeah, you sort of have to do everything. You can't necessarily hire out that IT
That's right.
person. You kind of
Exactly.
are looking for, if someone has IT skills,
Data processing, data entry.
yeah,
And
they can.
And I should say the most simple and direct way you can help if you're sitting at home right now, go to our website and you can donate right there. You can learn more about us, or frankly, come by and see us. Let us take you through the facility. If you believe in what we're doing, then you can absolutely give us some support, and we will return the favor in kind.
Wonderful. You did mention, too, you have a Facebook page as well as a website. We want to make sure everyone knows about those. How would we find that Facebook page?
Our Facebook page is just Friends of Cape Wildlife.
Friends of Cape Wildlife.
And ours is the Cape Wildlife Center. We are sort of partner organizations in this.
We are. For the next year at least, Friends of Cape Wildlife, our entire mission really is to support the Cape Wildlife Center. After that, our broader mission is to support wildlife on all of Cape Cod, including possibly helping rehabbers at home. One of the things that I do want to mention is education. You know, we may save 2,000 animals this year and see 2,000 animals at the center. But that's a drop in the bucket in the number of wildlife animals on Cape Cod. What's more important is that we're reaching out to schools, we're reaching out to civic groups to teach them how to take care of animals in the wild, how not to affect their habitat, what they can do, so that our hope is that we have decreasing numbers of animals that are coming in because their habitat has not been destroyed. A huge one is rodenticide. Using rat poison. You have rats, you have mice, you get your rat poison, you put it out, you kill them. They run away. The hawk comes down, eats the dead rat, gets poisoned with the rodenticide, and comes to us with rodenticide poisoning, which is a highly toxic problem for most birds and raptors, any animals that are eating the prey. Okay. So we want to educate the public about that. We have high school students coming in doing internships with us. We have externs coming in doing internships with us. We work with Riverview and transition schools to have their developmentally disabled clients come and work with us. We have a lot of retired volunteers who have found their niche with something to do. So,
which is so important. It's so important to have all these interactions with the community and really making it a community institution, helping educate our youth here on Cape Cod, providing opportunities for Cape Codders. So important, I think, to handle all of this.
This is our new model. As we said, animal care unfortunately does not pay. What does pay is...
They have no place for wallets.
What it does pay is becoming a community hub. If you want people to be engaged and give back and be sort of vessels to disseminate the information they learn, you have to invite them into the process. And as Karen said, our constituency spans the entire community of Cape Cod that we serve. And our hope is that this will sort of morph into one of those community hubs where we can give out space for lectures and do the animal care and educate students and so on and so forth. So as we evolve, we want everyone out there to be involved with us.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for joining me today and telling us all about the Cape Wildlife Center and its new beginnings. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. This is important.
Again, our guest today, Karen Ritchie. She's the co-chair of the Friends of Cape Wildlife. And of course, we have Zach Mertz. He's the executive director of the Cape Wildlife Center. Joining me now live on the phone, we have with us Cape Cod Community College Communications Director Michael Gross. Michael, Memorial Day is just around the corner, but Cape Cod Community College is going to be celebrating a little bit early. Tell me a little bit about this.
Absolutely. We invite the public to campus this Wednesday at 2:15. And we're going to have ceremonies on the patio of our Wilkins Library. There's a wonderful covered patio there in case the weather's a little off. We're going to go early this year because our commencement is on the 25th. And by the time you would get to the 29th, the real Memorial Day, the vast majority of our students would be gone. We would be in the middle of things before we start the summer semester. So this gives us a chance to really honor the veterans that we have and those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. We have about 160, more or less, veterans who are actually on campus taking courses with us. And Katie Downer runs a very active veteran center here. She's wonderful in serving their needs, and she's organized this event. We hope people will come. 2:15 this coming Wednesday afternoon, right on the patio of our Wilkins Library.
So heartwarming to hear that Cape Cod Community College is making sure to recognize the veterans in their community before breaking for holiday. We really, what a nice way to give back to those on your campus.
Well, absolutely. And the college has a long, long history of interacting with veterans. Certainly, when the Otis base was so very busy, we had huge numbers of veterans here and current service personnel. And now that things have changed a bit up there, we're also serving them, but we also really work hard. So many veterans come back from service and they don't realize how much their benefits, how far they can go at a community college. If you're using those benefits for a course that only costs $500, as opposed to a course that's going to cost you $1,500 or more at another institution, the benefits don't go quite so far if you're going elsewhere. So we really work hard to educate them, show them the kind of service and support that they need, and really make them a very vital part of this campus. It's very important to us, and I think that the campus will welcome the public to come and see how much we care about the veterans and those who have given all they could give. And that's an amazing, amazing gift. Afterwards, by the way, once the ceremonies are done, we do invite the public to go up to our Veterans Center or take the elevator up, and we have an amazing display of all of the military personnel who have lost their lives in service to the Cape. And these are Cape veterans who have given their lives for us. And it's an amazing display. So we ask the public, please do come Wednesday at 2:15, and then go up to the Veterans Center and see this amazing display.
Wonderful. And of course, that's the patio area of the library.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael. I want to talk to you, too, about some Cape Cod Community College professor that is really making a name for herself. She's getting some much-deserved recognition. Tell me a little bit about Nancy Willett.
This gives me a chance to talk a lot about the quality of our faculty. I think the public often does not give the kind of, I think, appreciation that they should for the quality of the faculty. Nancy Willett is a communications professor, teaches communications, has taught a variety of things in theater. As a matter of fact, just had a very successful collaboration with one of our faculty members in our hospitality program in running an event planning class together. They did it as a team. Nancy's been honored with an amazing award by the Eastern Communication Association, the Distinguished Teaching Fellow. This is an award by her peers that really recognizes a very distinguished career of teaching excellence, and it's not given out lightly. She has been very, very active, and this is something very special. But not only that, the National Communications Association, a group of well over 8,000 members, their president has just put her in a very important position of looking at policy for them, looking at how community colleges really affect the teaching of communication. How is it that we, who are dealing with so many different levels of students in our classrooms, can really become effective and make a difference in how we teach communication? It's a very, very important process, award given to her, and then a project given to her by two very important associations. And I think this, again, goes to speak to the kind of quality of faculty that are here. I'm not sure the public appreciates it at all. I think they sort of look at the community college as just another routine element of campus life, just kind of in the middle of the Cape. And yet the quality of the faculty who are here is incredible. And they teach because they want to. There is no requirement that they do research, although many do, and there's no real requirement that they do anything other than teach. And our faculty and other universities and college areas have a whole series of requirements, and teaching is only one of them. This is what we do, and here is an amazing award to a wonderful professor for her distinguished career in teaching, and I think it's amazingly great. Congratulations to Nancy. She's been very, very busy and continues to be, as a matter of fact, throughout all of these. Matter of fact, by the way, our Phi Theta Kappa, our International Honor Society, awarded her with their Golden Apple Award last year, honoring the professor that provided the most noteworthy service to all of the chapter members here. Just another reinforcement of the quality of her work.
No kidding, and the quality of instructors available to students at Cape Cod Community College. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today, telling us everything that's happening at Cape Cod Community College, and congratulations to Nancy as well. What a great honor.
Absolutely. Good to speak with you.
All right, you too, Michael. Talk to you next week.
All righty, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our guest today, Cape Cod Community College Communications Director Michael Gross. Now let's find out what's happening around town in today's community calendar. The Hyannis Public Library will be celebrating Star Wars Day this Wednesday. Children and their families are invited to celebrate by dressing up as their favorite character, making a lightsaber, and some other great Star Wars crafts. They can go through Jedi Knight training and some really fun activities as well. The free event will be held this Wednesday, May 3rd from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Hyannis Public Library. Well, you can improve your balance, stretch, and build strength with a free yoga class. Yoga Neighborhood offers free chair yoga every Wednesday at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center. This is an ideal class for someone who struggles with getting up and down off the floor. Chair yoga is held every Wednesday in the Shepley Room at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center at 10 a.m. And now here's a look at this week's board, committee, and commission meeting schedule. Well, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be back tomorrow with another great show for you. Tomorrow, we will chat with Chief of Police Paul McDonald. We'll hear from DPW Director Dan Santos and so much more. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.